Hi, I'm Richard Haller, and today we're going to talk about another region of the United States, one called the Southeast. This region in some ways is very much like our own. That is, the natural landscape is forest for the most part. Gets plenty of rain. There's a range of mountains, which is actually the continuation of the mountains that we have in the Northeast. And they're not tall mountains, but they're mountains nonetheless. As we get to the shore of the Southeast, we find that it flattens out just as it does here. The big difference is climate. As we go south, we'll find that there are states where there's very little snowfall. When it does snow, it usually stays around for a day or two and then it's all melted. As we go further south, we find states like Georgia, which get snow occasionally, but maybe once every few years. And as we go further south still into southern Florida, we'll find places where if you grew up there and lived your whole life, you would never see snow. Now, as a consequence of this climate, they're able to grow different things. We'll see different kinds of trees, including palm trees, as we get further south. They also grow cotton, rice, oranges, lemons, things which we can't grow in the Northeast. Well, we're going to talk about a little bit about the history of this region, and we'll also talk about the songs that come from here. And the first song that we're going to do is one called Jenny Jenkins. It's an old song, and it comes from the time when people had what they called play parties. You see, there was a time when if you wanted music, you had to make it yourself. All music was really homemade. And so here, boys and girls would get together in a barn or some other large place, and they'd have a dance. And the idea behind the song is the boy is asking the girl what she's going to wear to the dance, what color dress. And the girl needs to answer. But the trick to the song is that the girl needs to come up with a rhyme for the color that the boy is asking about. And really, the sillier the better. You can sing along with this song. It's got a real chorus, but it's not an easy one to sing because it's a bunch of nonsense words. I'll buy me a falderalda, seek a double, use a caller, and then the part everybody can join in. Roll, Jenny Jenkins, roll. How will you wear it, do me dear? Will you wear red, Jenny Jenkins? No, I won't wear red, it's a color I dread. I'll buy me a falderalda, seek a double, use a caller, roll. Jenny Jenkins, roll. Then will you wear green, oh my dear, oh my dear? Will you wear green, Jenny Jenkins? No, I won't wear green, I'm a sight to be seen. I'll buy me a falderalda, CKW, use a color, roll. Jenny Jenkins, roll. Then will you wear yellow, oh my dear, oh my dear? Will you wear yellow, Jenny Jenkins? No, I won't wear yellow, might get chased by a fella. I'll buy me a falderalda, CKW, use a color, roll. Jenny Jenkins, roll. Then will you wear white, oh my dear, oh my dear? Will you wear white, Jenny Jenkins? No, I won't wear white, cause the color's too bright. I'll buy me a falderalda, CKW, use a color, roll. Jenny Jenkins, roll. Then will you wear blue, oh my dear, oh my dear? Will you wear blue, Jenny Jenkins? No, I won't wear blue, cause the color's too true. I'll buy me a falderalda, CKW, use a color, roll. Jenny Jenkins, roll. Then will you wear orange, oh my dear, oh my dear? Will you wear orange, Jenny Jenkins? No orange this time, cause there isn't any rhyme. I'll buy me a falderalda, CKW, use a color, roll. Jenny Jenkins, roll. then what will you wear, oh my dear, oh my dear? What will you wear, Jenny Jenkins? How what do you care, just as long as I'm there? I'll buy me a father of the cheeky W's you call a roll, Jenny Jenkins roll. Now you may know that at one time, in 1860, these southeastern states actually tried to leave the United States and form their own country, a new country to be called the Confederate States of America. Yes, and of course, as they left the Union, each state needed a flag, and what they adopted was this flag called in the song, the Bonnie Blue Flag. And you can see there's a single star on a blue background. The symbolism behind it is, as you may know, each star on the American flag stands for a state. So what they were doing is they were removing their state from the United States. They were also removing their star from the flag. Now initially each state adopted that same flag. Eventually though they did form the Confederate States, and the Confederate flag is the one that perhaps you've seen with kind of an X of stars instead on a red background. The song, the Bonnie Blue Flag, at one time was as popular as Dixie, often called the anthem of the South, and it's a rousing, kind of inspiring song from the early days of the war, which ensued very quickly, and which the southern states expected would be over very quickly. But you see, the northern states were determined to hold the United States together. This chorus goes like this: hurrah, hurrah, for Southern rights, hurrah. 3 cheers for the Bonnie Blue Flag that bears the single star. But as you listen to this song, I'd like you to think if there's any hint, any clue in the song as to why these southern states wished to no longer be a part of our country, the United States. We are a band of brothers, native to the soil, fighting for the property we gain by honest toil. And when our rights were threatened, the call went near and far to raise on high the bonny blue flag that bears the single star. Hurrah, hurrah, for Southern rights, hurrah. 3 cheers for the bonny blue flag that bears the single star. As long as the Union was faithful to our trust, like friends we were and brothers, kind we were and just. But now when northern treachery attempts our rights to mar, we'll hoist on high the bonny blue flag that bears the single star. Hurrah, hurrah, for Southern rights, hurrah. 3 cheers for the bonny blue flag that bears the single star. First noble South Carolina nobly made a stand. Then came Alabama and took her by the hand. Then swiftly Mississippi, Georgia and Florida, all raised on high the bonny blue flag that bears the single star. Hurrah, hurrah, for Southern rights, hurrah. 3 cheers for the bonny blue flag that bears the single star. And here's to our Confederacy, strong we are and brave. Like patriots of old we'll fight our heritage to save. And rather than submit to shame, to die we would prefer. So here's to the bonny blue flag that bears the single star. Hurrah, hurrah, for Southern rights, hurrah. 3 cheers for the bonny blue flag that bears the single star. Hurrah, hurrah, for Southern rights, hurrah! 3 cheers for the bonny blue flag that bears the single star. Now in that song, The Bonny Blue Flag, there's some hints about why these southern states wanted to leave the Union. There's talk about rights, there's talking about shame, but the key part is when it talks about property. It says, we're fighting for the property we gained by honest toil. Toil is work. But what is this property? Actually, the property they're talking about are slaves. People who had been brought from Africa in chains and who were forced to work from dawn until dark without any pay. People who are actually owned by their masters. And the war was really about getting freedom for these people. Now, the war ended badly for the South. Here's a picture that shows the capital of the South, Richmond, Virginia. And you can see that it's been bombed, and it's also been set on fire by the retreating Southern troops. And scenes of destruction like this were common in Southern cities. This next photograph shows Southern veterans, that is, people who fought on the side of the Confederacy, who lost the war. And in this case, they have gathered 50 or perhaps even longer years later as in a reunion. Now, how do you suppose these people feel about the war that they fought and eventually lost? Well, our next song is called The Unreconstructed Rebel, and this song expresses the feelings that at least some of them had. It was actually performed at Confederate Army conventions, and the feelings that it expresses were not uncommon. Now, there's some vocabulary in the song that you're probably not familiar with. It talks about Reconstruction. That is the period after the Civil War, during which Northern troops still occupied the southern states, and they were supposed to be a process of reconstruction. That is, rebuilding the South into a new sort of place. It refers to the Freedmen's Bureau. The Freedmen's Bureau was set up by northern states again, here to make sure that the former slaves who had been freed by the war had the same rights as any other citizen. It mentions Mars Roberts. That'd be kind of short for Master Roberts. That's the Robert E. Lee, the general who fought on the side of the Confederates. And lastly, it talks about Yankees. Now, a Yankee is anyone from those northern states. So we're all Yankees. There is no chorus in this song, nothing to sing along. And I don't play the guitar in this song because, well, I think it's more effective without it. See what you think. I'm a good old rebel soldier. That's all I'll ever be. I do not care at all for this land of liberty. I'm glad I fought against them. I only wish we'd won. And I don't want no pardon for anything I'd done. Well, I hates the Constitution, this great republic too. I hates the Yankee Army and the uniform of blue. I hates the Freedmen's Bureau with all its mess and fuss. Them lying, thieving Yankees, I hates 'em worse and worse. Well, I follered old Mars Roberts for 4 years near about. got wounded at Manassas and starved at Point Lookout. I catched the rheumatism from camping in the snow, but I killed a chance of Yankees. I'd like to kill some more. 300,000 Yankee boys lie still in southern dust. We got 300,000 before they conquered us. They died of southern fever and southern steel and shot. And I wished we'd got 3 million instead of what we got. Well, I can't take up my musket now and fight 'em anymore. But I ain't gonna love 'em now, that is certain sure. And I don't want no pardon, I'm a rebel still today. And I won't be reconstructed, whatever they may say. Now, do you suppose everyone in the South had these same feelings of bitterness that are expressed in that song about the way the war ended? Take a look at this picture. Here we see people who were born slaves now voting for the first time. The man in the front of the line is probably about my age. He's never voted before. And you can see there are a couple of men in uniform because black troops fought bravely on the side of the North. The next song that we're going to do actually is a song that they sang going into battle. It's called "O Mary," and it references a number of things in the Bible. First of all, the story of Moses. Now, the story of Moses had a special meaning to people living in slavery because the Hebrew people were kept in slavery in Egypt, and it was Moses who led them to freedom. And according to the Bible, Moses is leading his people, and the Pharaoh's army, the king of Egypt is the Pharaoh. He sent his army after them. The army is right behind them. The people come to the Red Sea. There's no way to get across it, so they're trapped. But here, according to the Bible, God intervenes. Moses puts his staff, his stick, on the waters. The waters open up. His people are able to walk along the bottom of the ocean, which is now dry land. And when the Pharaoh's army tries to pursue them, the waters close up and they're all drowned. This song also mentions the story of Noah. You probably know about Noah and the great flood. Well, at the end of that story, God puts a rainbow in the sky as a sign that he will not flood the earth again. So let's try this song. It has a very singable chorus, and as always, you're welcome to join in. Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't you moan. Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't you moan. Pharaoh's army got drowned. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. If I could, I surely would stand on the rock where Moses stood. Pharaoh's army got drowned. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't you moan. Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't you moan. Pharaoh's army got drowned. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. Moses stood on the Red Sea shore, smote the water with a 2x4. Pharaoh's army got drowned. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't you moan. Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't you moan. Pharaoh's army got drowned. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. God gave Noah the rainbow sign. No more water, boy, fire next time. Pharaoh's army got drowned. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't you moan. Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't you moan. Pharaoh's army got drowned. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. One of these days about 12 o'clock, this whole world is going to reel and rock. Pharaoh's army got drowned. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't you moan. Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't you moan. Pharaoh's army got drowned. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. Now, sad to say, all the rights that we mentioned for the former slaves, that is the right to vote, the right to serve on the jury, and so on, those were all taken away starting in 1877 with the end of Reconstruction. And by the end of that century, the 1890s or so, the southern states also started to put into place Jim Crow laws, that is, laws of segregation, separated the races, made extra separate schools, separate drinking fountains, and so on. All those things I'm sure you've learned about. And those kinds of rights were not restored until 1965. Now, unjust laws like that have to be enforced by an unjust police force, an unjust court system, and an unjust prison system. And here we see some people who are held prisoner, and they are in what's called a chain gang. They've been leased out, perhaps for 25 cents a day, to a railroad, and they are working to build the railroad bed under conditions very much like slavery, with armed guards, no pay, no possibility of escape. While they were working like this, in this case using hammers to break up rocks so they can be hauled away, they would be singing, yes, a work song, a different kind of work song than the one we sang earlier, where people were on board ship and they were singing in order to pull together. Here, there's no need for everyone to hit the rock at the same time, but the purpose of the song is to set the pace of work that someone can go at, a pace that someone can go at all day long. So, again, there would be a leader of the song, and what we're going to do, I'll be singing the song, but I'll also be clapping my hands. And you can clap along, but in your imagination, suppose that instead of the sound of hands clapping, what we're hearing is the sound of hammer hitting rock, because that is what the rhythm of this song would be. Let's try it together. Take this hammer, wow, carry it to the captain, wow. Take this hammer, wow, carry it to the captain, wow. Take this hammer, wow, carry it to the captain, wow. You tell him I'm gone, wow. You tell him I'm gone, wow. If he asks you, wow, was I running, wow. If he asks you, was I running? Wow. If he asked you, wow, was I running? Wow. You tell him I was flying. Wow. You tell him I was flying. Wow. I don't want you. Wow. Cornbread like molasses. Wow. I don't want you. Wow. Cornbread like molasses. Wow. I don't want you. Wow. Cornbread like molasses. Wow. Hurts my pride. Wow. Hurts my pride. Wow. Take this hammer. Wow. Cat to the captain. Wow. Take this hammer. Wow. Cat to the captain. Wow. Take this hammer. Wow. Cat to the captain. Wow. You tell him I'm gone. Wow. You tell him I'm gone. Our last song tells the story of John Henry. Now, John Henry is a story you may see in tall tale books, although it's not really a tall tale. It actually could have happened. It's a story that you have in your library in picture books, but originally it was told in this song. Now, John Henry, according to legend, was working on the Big Bend Tunnel. It's on the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad, and it was in West Virginia. The year was 1873. We know that because that's when the tunnel was constructed. And you can see in this picture the elements of, well, really all the elements of the song. We see John Henry swinging that big hammer like the convicts we saw in the photograph. What he's doing is drilling holes into rock. There's a man holding a steel drill bit that he's hitting to drill those holes, and when the holes are deep enough, they'll be packed with gunpowder or dynamite and exploded, break the rocks into little pieces that can be carried off so that the tunnel can be constructed. The man holding that steel bit, by the way, is called a shaker. It's called a shaker because if he thought about what would happen if John Henry were to miss, he would be shaking with fear. Now, next to John Henry, we see the other part of the story. Some men using a machine to do the same work. What in the song is referred to as a steam drill. The machine powered by a steam. And of course, if at the end of the day, the steam drill has drilled more holes or longer holes than John Henry, well, John Henry and those other steel drivers might be out of a job. So this is a song that tells a story between a contest between man and machine. You can sing along easily because it has a repeating part that you'll catch on to very quickly. So I invite you to do so. When John Henry was a little baby, sit down on his mammy's knee, he pointed at a hammer and a little piece of steel, says hammer's gonna be the death of me, says hammer's gonna be the death of me. Now the captain, he said to John Henry, gonna bring that steam drill round, gonna put that steam drill out on the job, put that steel on down, put that steel on down. Henry said to the captain, a man ain't nothing but a man. But before I let that steam drill beat me down, I'll die with this hammer in my hand. I'll die with this hammer in my hand. Then John Henry said to the shaker, Shaker, why don't you sing? I'm throwing 12 pounds from the hips on down. Listen to that cold steel ring. Listen to that cold steel ring. The shaker has said to John Henry, I believe the mountain's caving in. John Henry said to the shaker boy, that ain't nothing but my hammer sucking wind. Nothing but my hammer sucking wind. Now the man who invented that steam drill, he thought he was mighty fine. John Henry made his 14 feet. Steam drill only made 9. The steam drill only made 9. John Henry was driving on the mountain till his hammer was striking fire. He drove so hard that it broke his poor heart. Laid down his hammer and he died. He laid down his hammer and he died. They took John Henry to the graveyard. They buried him deep in the sand. Heavy locomotive they come rolling by, said there lies a steel driving man. 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 Well, so long. I'll see you next time.